morning, and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome in from across the continent and beyond for another very exciting Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants broadcast. If you're joining us for the first time today, as so many of you are, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. And everything we do goes to our YouTube channel. So if you want to check this out in 3 weeks or 3 years or have some fun with over 40 other broadcasts we've done in conjunction with your Toronto Zoo, you can head there and do just that. Now, as I said, today we are partnering with the zoo, but we are partnering on a very special series, our first ever formal series with the zoo, and that is Guardians of Wild. So I can't encourage you enough. Check out the full webpage we have for this. We've got a program coming every week in the lead up to December where we all take a break and eat way too much turkey. I can't encourage you enough. It's a lot of fun. We're going to be highlighting how conservation and scientists and all sorts of teams at the zoo work to fight back against extinction. So this is something that conservation organizations the world over are trying to do, a world of abundance for wildlife and people alike. And I'm so excited of all the partners that we are joined with the zoo, because don't tell our other partners, but I really love getting the chance to work with the zoo. They got the best education team in the world, and they're where I grew up, basically going like once every couple of weeks to go hang out with the animals. So you're in for a real treat, and I look forward to all your questions and queries in the comment section on YouTube and Facebook alike. Now, without further ado, I'm going to turn you over to Mary Ellen, our educator extraordinaire, and some special guests to talk about an introduction to One Well-Being. What's that all about? Well, let's find out together. Without further ado, Mary Ellen, take us away. Hey!
Hello. Thank you so much. It's so great to be back for the beginning of our wonderful series here. It's great to see you, Jesse. It's been a while since we've done a broadcast here together. We had a little bit of a break over the summer, and now we are back. I'm so excited today to be joining us here at the Toronto Zoo. We're going to learn all about One Well-Being. I'm going to turn it over to some of my amazing colleagues here in just a moment. But before we do so, Jesse, I'm going to have you bring up our land acknowledgement to get us started. So first off, we would just like to acknowledge that the land that we are standing on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississauga of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nation, Métis, and Inuit peoples. I also want to acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississauga of the Credit and the Williams Treaty signed with multiple Mississauga and Chippewa bands. Perfect. Thank you so much, Jesse. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the camera around on our real stars today. I'm so excited to be starting this series off with my colleagues, Julia and Joey here, and they are going to tell us a little bit all about One Well-Being. So let's turn around our camera here and get a chance to meet the stars. There we go.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Marilyn, for the introduction. I guess I want to say that we're here and we're doing work, but the real stars are the animals here. So just keeping that in mind as we go through this whole program. Jesse, thank you so much for having us here. And our job is really cool, and we're going to talk about some of the things we do today, but it makes it way more cool that you're here with us, and that's the best part of our job, is sharing things that we learn. I'm Joey. I'm a research assistant here at the Toronto Zoo in the Welfare Science Department, and my job is really cool because I get to collaborate with people all across the zoo, nutrition people, veterinarians, wildlife care staff, and exhibit design, as we try and optimize the quality of life for animals here at the zoo and try and give them the best life we can.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. My name is Julia, and just like Joey, I'm also a research assistant here at the Toronto Zoo, although I actually work specifically in the nutrition science department. Now, the nutrition science team is really special, and it does really cool work here at the Toronto Zoo by designing and curating specialized diets for each species that you see here at the Toronto Zoo, from the fish and the birds, all the mammals, all the big animals and small animals. Each and every single one of them has a specialized diet made for you by our nutrition care staff. So yeah, today we're going to be talking to you about One Health and give an intro to that. But first, I'm going to let Joey tell us about some of our objectives for today's session.
Okay, this is our first time doing one of these. So Jesse, do you mind throwing up our today's objectives just on the board there?
You've got it, man. It's up.
Okay, so fun. So we're just going to make sure we're all on the same page here and what we're going to be talking about. So we have 3 main objectives today. So we're going to talk about the concept of One Well-Being, and Julia is going to talk about that in a minute. And then I'm going to talk about animal welfare and how that relates to animals here at the zoo. Then we're going to go through the Australasia Pavilion, where we're located right now, and we're going to talk about aviaries, the places we keep birds, and we're going to talk about benefits and challenges of managing animals in those spaces. And then last, we're going to talk about some of our monitoring projects that we're working on to overcome some of the challenges of keeping birds here at the zoo. Okay, so with that, I think we're ready to go.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, why don't we pull up our first figure there, Jesse, if you don't mind, as I give us a little intro to what One Wellbeing is and what that means in this context. So awesome. As you can all see here, our One Wellbeing blurb shows the relationship between animals, humans, and the environment. And the One Wellbeing approach is that it looks beyond individual care to understand that all living systems are interconnected and they all influence each other. Now, this is just the introduction, and of course, there's going to be 5 other series going on in this web event, but ours is going to focus mostly on the animal side as we talk to you about aviaries and systems set up to monitor their behavior, but just keeping in mind this framework of interconnectedness between all of our systems here at the Toronto Zoo. And yeah, as we go through the series, we're going to learn more about conservation, different forms of AI and how that monitors animals, different segments in nutrition. So yeah, this is just one piece of the puzzle here, and just to communicate that we're all so collaborative, but yeah, that's our intro to well-being. Awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, I think we're gonna talk about animal welfare, but we can just move through the aviaries a bit. We can just see what we got here in front of us. Julia, do you want to introduce
Yeah,
this?
absolutely. So it might be hard to see, but up on the right here, we have some of our red-tailed black cockatoos. Those are Lewis and Tina in our first aviary here. And it's kind of hard to tell as well, but this is actually a mixed species enclosure. So in here, we also have a batong named Gerald, who's like a mini kangaroo, as well as an echidna named Annie, who actually just celebrated her 44th birthday very recently. But since she's crepuscular, which means she really comes out at dawn and dusk, she's not super visible all the time, but our birds here put on a good show for us. So anyways, okay, we're gonna take you to our next aviary and check out more spaces in Australasia. Come with us.
Okay, just because we want to check out all these kinds of aviary spaces, here's another one, and I'm not sure how well you can see here, but that's one of our kookaburras here, and we'll have to keep tabs on them because if they start laughing, it's going to be really loud, and we're going to have to stop talking and give them a minute.
Looks like they want to crack a joke. Just kidding.
Okay, this is another one of those mixed species spaces. So in here, in this bag, we have a nocturnal animal, a batong. He's really cool, and it goes to show that we can have these multi-species areas. Cool. Okay, I think we're going to ask our first question to the audience, if that's okay with you, Jesse.
Let's do it.
Okay, good.
Awesome.
Okay, awesome. Okay, just keeping in mind, we're animals. These are animals.
Yep.
We want to ask everyone online what they need to have a good quality of life. What do you need to have a good life? What do you need in your life?
What do you want in your life that makes it good?
Yeah.
No, I've got to tell you personally, while we're waiting for our Zoo, YouTube, and Facebook audience to chime in, our StreamYard audience to chime in, I've got to say that this new coffee shop opened up near my house, and a flat white every day is an expensive luxury, but without it, I don't feel like I'd have a good life anymore. More accurately, food, shelter are really good. Friendships, companions, all really good things. You don't necessarily need a fancy latte or a drink. We've got some of those coming in as well. So good food from our Miss Riddles class in Nova Scotia. Yes, something to eat. Make sure without that, it's not that good a life. Safe home, keep them warm, and food from our Holy Trinity Secondary School group. That's fantastic. Nice place to live. So we're getting the food, shelter, companions, our pets. So as people, we love having things that we can share our home with. Elena from grade 2 wants to know, oh, that's a question for later. So we've got some great, those are our basics, our basic hierarchy of needs, guys. Great answer.
This is amazing.
Fantastic answers, everybody.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely fired up because it seems like we're all on the same page as we're thinking about welfare, right? The things we need, right, to live and to be happy. When we think about welfare at the zoo and other places, there's a few different ways to conceptualize it. But at your Toronto Zoo, we've adopted this 5 domains model. So we have a figure. Jesse, could you throw that one up for us?
Sure can.
Amazing. Thank you very much. And this is along the lines of a lot of the things we're already talking about, right? So when we think about the welfare, these 5 domains contribute to how an animal lives and experiences life. Like what everyone's talking about, nutrition, right? I want to eat things that make me feel good and healthy and strong and that are aligned for my specific life stage, so if I'm a baby or an adult, and my specific species. So I'm going to eat something different than the kookaburras. We're going to eat something different than a cheetah. And like Julia talked about a little bit earlier, we have a dedicated nutrition staff here at the zoo that formulates diets for specific species and sometimes even for specific individuals, which is really cool. Second, we have health, right? If I have aches and pains, that's going to affect my quality of life. If I get sick, it will too. And if I get sick, I go to the doctor. And the animals here have that option as well. We have a dedicated veterinary staff team who come in and do checkups on animals, provide vaccines, And if they get sick or injured, they intervene quickly to make sure we have a good quality of life for the animals here. Next, we have environment, right? So someone talked about this, I think, they're a nice, comfortable space at home. And we try and recreate these opportunities for animals here at the zoo as a part of our wildlife care staff and our exhibit design teams. And I like having spaces for me to go run around, and I also want to go home where I can stay in my comfortable bed and do the things I want. And we want to give the animals the options to do all these things that are important to them here at the zoo. Our fourth domain is behavior, right? So this is encouraging animals to do the things that are important to their species. For me, let's say I like running and I also like lying down. I want to have a space that can do those things. And here at the zoo, a bird might want the opportunity to fly, so we try and create spaces that allow them to do these important things. A cheetah might want to run, so we give them space to run. Another important part about this is the social component. So I really like hanging out with my friends, and that's really important that I have that opportunity, and that's the same for some of the animals here at the zoo. Other ones, like a tiger, might want to be alone more often, so we provide those options for them. The 4 domains we just talked about contribute to the 5th one, which is mental state. And this relates to how an animal feels. Are they hungry? Are they scared? Are they happy? Are they feeling great? Right? And part of that experience is their ability for choice and control. Right? So sometimes after work, I'm tired and I just want to lie down and go to bed. Sometimes I want to have my friends over and play video games. Sometimes I want to go for a run by myself. And animals have choices and different decisions they want to have in their life too. And we provide spaces and experiences that allow them to make those choices.
But Joey, can I ask, why is it important that we offer these animals the most optimal welfare possible?
Julia, that's an excellent question, and I'm sure everyone else is wondering as well. I like to think about it in 3 specific ways. So number 1, just like you and me and Julia and your pets at home, animals deserve the opportunity to have a good life, right? And like your pets at home, the animals here are part of our family, and it's our responsibility to give them the best possible life we can. So our first one is that they deserve it inherently. Our second one is that people come here from all over the world to learn about animals, like you online or the visitors here right now. And it's important that the animals are living their fullest life so that we can learn the most from them and get people engaged in caring about them long-term in the zoo and outside of it. So our second one is education. And our third one here is that research has shown that animals that have better welfare have better success in breeding programs. And when we're thinking about conservation of animals by maintaining genetic information in zoos or releasing animals back into the wild, it matters how they're experiencing the world. So our third one here is conservation. That's why we care about welfare at the zoo.
Awesome. Thank you for going through that with us, Joey. So now, our next segment, we're going to take you to our 3rd and final aviary in this space. And this is where Joey and I have been conducting our really, really cool project that we're going to talk to you about. So come follow me. So as we can see here, this is our free flight aviary, and although this looks quite big, this is actually what we call the small side of the aviary. And as we get over to the middle of it, we can actually see that there's a pass-through across both sides, where not only can us visitors walk through and understand both sides, but the birds also have the ability to fly from the small side to what we call the big side. Now, I'm going to give you a little meet and greet to some of our stars of today. The first one here, Mrs. Rosie. Now, Rosie is a galah. She'll wave and say hello. Good morning. Hi, Rosie. She's very friendly and very social. She's one of the birds here that loves human interaction. Now, that's really important because there are some birds in here that really like being in front of the camera and saying hi to everybody. But this aviary also offers the other birds that maybe are not as social to get away from the humans and hang out with their friends and do things that they feel happy with. So I'll introduce you to a couple of our other bird species here, because as we know, this is a mixed species aviary. Now over on our right-hand side, in the big side, we can see these 2 big, beautiful blue birds. Now these are called Victoria crown pigeons. They're actually the largest species of pigeon. Now these birds are really, really cool, and they spend most of their time hanging out on the ground, foraging, collecting nesting materials, and hanging out in their pair. As we can also see, maybe beside them are 2 very colorful birds. Now these are rosellas. Their names are Rosé and Shiraz, and they're a different type of bird, but they like to spend usually most of their time up in the trees, but I guess today they're hanging out on the ground here. But it just goes to show you that these spaces allow birds to perform whatever types of behaviors that they feel like. So in addition to rosellas and Victoria crown pigeons, we also have pied imperial pigeons, crested pigeons, and Nicobar pigeons. So if you love pigeons, this is the place to come. And there's also a really, really special bird in here. His name is Urkel, and he's a tawny frogmouth. He's actually nocturnal, so sometimes during the daytime, it's hard to see him. But he likes to spend most of his time up in the rafters, hanging out during the day, and at night is when he tends to come around. So we might not see him today, but just know that lots of different types of birds here like to spend their time doing different things. Now, this is kind of like a playground for humans or for kids. We know that all kids have different things they like to do. Joey likes going on the monkey bars. I like going down the slide. Some people might like playing tag in a group. Some people might like reading a book alone, doing things that they feel good. So that just goes to show you that an area like this can be so close to what we see in our day-to-day lives. So awesome. Maybe do you want to talk more about why we have aviaries here at the zoo?
So cool. I love that playground analogy. I do love the monkey bars. When we're thinking about aviaries, like when we keep animals in an enclosure, we can call that a habitat. When we keep fish in an aquarium, we call it an aquarium. And aviary is just a place we keep birds, right? So aviaries can range from very small cages that don't provide the animals with a lot of different options to huge spaces like this, right? Where the animals can move freely and do different things. I actually made sure to wear my hat today because I'm under that transfer Julia was talking about earlier, and I really don't want to get poop in my hair again. Right? Okay, so we like to provide the animals with the best possible spaces we can. And like Julia talked about earlier with this playground mentality, we try and provide animals with a lot of opportunities for choice and control like we talked about earlier, right? So if a bird doesn't want to be around people today, they can go up in the rafters, they can go to the back of the space, they can come down after everyone's gone home for the day, or like Rosie, they can come hang out with us, right? This choice and control is really important. There's also opportunities for different terrains in here and lots of complexity. I think that's what I want to say there. As we think about these interesting opportunities that come from these large and complex spaces, I would love to ask another question to the group, if that's all right.
Let's do it.
Thanks, Jesse. When you're thinking about managing animals in a big, complex space like this, can you think of any challenges that there would be in taking care of the animals in the best possible way?
Ooh, okay. YouTubers, Facebook audience, StreamYard audience, you guys did a great job last time with some answers. For me, one of the challenges would be just getting to find the individual animals you're looking for. Mary Ellen, who started this broadcast, spent years looking. She's not an animal care person, she's an educator, but spent years looking for the wombat at the zoo. And so I've never seen the wombat at the zoo. I've been to the zoo 25 plus times. So if your job is to care for individual animals and there's a lot of them or they're spread over a large area, that's a challenge that jumps out and is very apparent to me. Babies or hatchlings, maybe some of the animals are breeding and you have to deal with that all of a sudden. The challenge is inherent in parenthood. That's a great answer. Managing visitors, so sometimes people might influence the animals in a certain way. I know at the Australasia Pavilion where you folks are at, the tree kangaroo area, back when I remember coming there last, mentioned, people need to be very quiet. These are skittish animals. They could potentially fall out of a tree. And so making sure that people are quiet in an area where you have to deal with that, that's a great answer. Making sure one bird does not hog all the food, and Rosie here looks like a real food hog. So that's a great answer. Yeah, great options, guys. You guys rock.
Yeah, those are really awesome points. And again, I'm just getting super excited that everyone is thinking at such a strong level. When we're thinking about these spaces, a big one that we struggle with is that first one that you mentioned, right? It's keeping track of the animals. If they don't have to see us, they don't have to be around us, and maybe they choose not to be, it's hard to make sure that they are having the best possible lives. Rosie's down there looking at Julia's food bowl. So that's awesome, and all those challenges make a lot of sense, right? And I think Julia's going to talk a little bit more about that food one that someone talked about.
Yeah.
Potential food hogs.
Absolutely. So you guys, those are some great answers. I think we're getting on the right wavelength for what some of these challenges are. And now, coming from a nutrition background here, I'm going to give you the nutrition perspective on it. So basically, we know that this is a big space with so many animals in it. And as you've seen from Mary Ellen's panning shots, we can see that there's a bunch of different food bowls. There's some on the ground for the birds that like to eat on the ground, but there's also raised bowls for those that like to eat higher up. And this one specifically we call the Rosie bowl, actually, because only Rosie can access this bowl. So yeah, one of the main challenges is that we put out all these food dishes, and as we know, the nutrition science team puts together specific diets for each of the species that's found in here, but the birds all have access to each other's diets. So it'd be like if me and Joey were sharing a plate of food, you wouldn't really know who's eating what, right? So that's been a challenge for us here in the nutrition science department, but what we've been doing is trying to understand where birds choose to eat. Now, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but why don't I first show you what birds eat? So this is an example of one of the food dishes we have here. As you can see, we have some pellets, some seeds, some tasty treats, also some fruit and veggies. So not only does this food provide the nutrients that animals need to be strong and healthy, but it also provides enrichment for them, fun foraging things that they can chew and eat and play with and throw to not only enrich them physically, but also mentally and do things that are natural for them. So that's been a really cool way that we help make their lives better here at the Toronto Zoo. So like we said, one of the challenges is knowing what animals physically eat. But another really important thing to understand what animals are eating is knowing what they weigh. So weight is a really good metric for us to keep track of. We get a baseline and we can know if animals are losing weight due to some reasons or maybe gaining weight. So keeping track of that is really important. So why don't I let Joey explain why weight is a really important metric, especially in a mixed species aviary like this?
Yeah, absolutely. So cool. I love that food dish. I love that Rosie's going for it. She's so fun. When we think about these challenges of monitoring, it is hard. Like, how can you keep track of the birds when they're far away from you? And how can you tell a bird's weight when they're covered in feathers? It's really challenging compared to like assessing a mammal. So when we think about weighing birds, we think of three possible ways to do it. Number one, we could catch them, right? And sometimes we do have to do this when the veterinarians are doing some minor surgery or giving vaccines. And then sometimes we will weigh the birds in that scenario. But it can be dangerous because birds can be delicate, they have wings and things like that, so we try not to catch them up too often. So if we're trying to get consistent weights to try and understand if there's a change in weight, it's not the most feasible solution. So number two, we could ask them. Okay, so let's say Julia wanted to get my weight. She could put a bathroom scale on the ground and ask me to step on it and then give me an Oreo cookie, right? And if she asks me to step on that scale again, I'm going to do it as many times as she asks because I'm going to get a cookie, right? It's just building that relationship. And this is something that the wildlife care staff does with some of the birds here at the zoo, like Rosie, right? Rosie's got a big personality and she is trainable, and the wildlife care staff can ask Rosie to get on a scale for a tasty treat whenever they ask, for the most part. It's her choice to participate or not. But there's like 20 birds in here and I think maybe 10 aviaries across the zoo. So maintaining these training relationships with this many birds, establishing the relationship and maintaining it is just not really feasible with our staff and with the way that we care for the animals. So there is a third option, and that's where me and Julia come in. And this is trying to weigh the birds passively and opportunistically without even getting close to them.
Not even touching a single bird in the process, other than maybe Rosie coming up to say hi.
Yeah, okay, so should we show the...
I think we should show them.
So we're just gonna pull up some props here as to our apparatus for trying to get weights of birds without touching them, without going near them.
So this right here is our scale. Now this scale goes directly in the aviary on one of the feeding platforms or on the ground. And now that we have a food bowl here, why don't we show
Yeah,
them?
let's grab that.
So what we do is we place a food bowl right on top of the scale. We tare it, of course, to make sure it's at 0. And then we're able to put a camera in close proximity to the bowl so that when a bird lands on the scale inside of the bowl, it activates a motion sensor in the camera, which automatically takes a 10-second video. Now this video highlights the screen here. We make sure to point it perfectly there. It highlights the screen and it shows us the weight of the bird. Now we're able to take this data and understand bird weights.
Yeah, we have a video. Again, we're new to this. Jesse, are you able to play that little short video we have in there?
I certainly am. Here we are.
Awesome.
145.5.
Nice.
Perfect.
Awesome. So this is what it looks like from our camera's view. So in that video, you can see that we can see the little screen on there so we can get the weight. We can see that's this gray bird that we know as a crested pigeon, but there's actually 5 other crested pigeons in here, and to me, they all look exactly the same. So the nice thing about our cameras is that they can pick up the little white band around that bird's ankle, and we can know that that bird is Annabelle. Okay, so what we can do with that information is then we get these individual weights that we can see change over time, and they are individualized to that bird. So it's really cool that we got Annabelle's weight. We've been very successful in getting weights of
every single bird in this aviary.
every single bird in this aviary. And Annabelle's not actually the hardest bird to get. So Julia mentioned Urkel earlier. We were actually in here for about 10 minutes before this presentation started, and we were looking for Urkel, and we couldn't actually find him. Julia mentioned earlier, he's nocturnal, and his form of camouflage during the day is looking exactly like a stick.
Yeah, he's very tough to find. So if you come to Australasia Pavilion and you find Urkel, that's a big high five to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And he usually comes down to eat during the day. And as we think about our monitoring challenges, right, this is a big challenge, right? He only comes down when we're not here, when it's night. So if we want to keep track of his welfare, we want to keep track of his weight, we need to have a different solution for that. And luckily, our cameras here, this is actually not the lens. This is an infrared light. So it shoots out a light at a wavelength that you and me and Julia and Urkel can't see, but the camera can. So we're able to get weights of birds that are nocturnal that only come out when we're not here. Jesse, we have a picture of Urkel on the scale. Do you mind pulling that up?
Urkel looks fantastic. And by the way, if I ever find Urkel, I'd like one of those Oreo cookies you're giving out for the scale rather than just a high five.
I think we can make that happen, Jesse.
Yeah, so cool.
Awesome. Okay, so that was a huge win for the welfare and nutrition team. And absolutely, the whole zoo at that point, and especially the wildlife care staff as well. So
this is the first way we ever got on Urkel without having to touch him. So.
And that's really important to be able to stay hands-off with a lot of these birds. So going forward, looking back at the nutrition side, we wanted to take this project a step forward. And with the camera and scale setup, we were also able to understand during the day where birds choose to eat. Now we point the scale at a specific feed dish. And Jesse, if you don't mind pulling up our next image here, that's a little map that I have of our aviary here. Of the raised dishes and the ground dishes. And then on the right, we can see a beautiful little pie chart. And so after going through hours and hours of footage, I'm able to actually determine how much time Rosie spends at each feed dish. So I can make like a little location map of where Rosie likes to eat. Now with our information or our data, I was actually able to do this for each individual species of bird to get a better idea of where birds choose to eat. Now, like we said, they have the complete freedom to choose wherever they'd like to go, but picking up on these trends and these patterns helps us make much better management decisions for these animals to make sure that they're eating things that are good for them and specific for their species. So with that, we've taken this another step further, and we're starting to place specific feed items that are for those species in their bowls. So Rosie now gets her own special Rosie diet in this bowl. So that's something that we've been able to do with our really cool setup. And this has been very helpful for optimizing their nutritional welfare here at the Toronto Zoo. So with this project going forward, Joey and I are putting together a toolkit to help inform other people about how to monitor and observe bird behavior and how to put that into practice and make it more practical for management solutions, not just here at the Toronto Zoo, not even just in this aviary, across other exhibits, but also helping other zoos as well. So that's really been cool for us.
Yeah, it's been really awesome. And it's been so great collaborating with everyone across the zoo as we all work to learn about these animals and learn how to care for them in the best possible way. I think we're really excited to get into the question and answer period. Yeah. But just before we get there, we just wanted to sum up what we talked about today, if that works for everyone. So today we did an introduction to One Well-Being. This is the interaction between humans, animals, and the environment, and the interconnectedness between all of those systems. We also talked about welfare, thinking about our 5 domains, so behavior, environment, nutrition, health, and mental states. We also had an introduction to aviaries, their variation, and how they can hold multiple species, not just of birds, but of other animals as well. And we talked about their benefits, which is this opportunity for choice and control, and their challenges, which a lot of you pointed out, which was really awesome. And we highlighted the challenge of it's really difficult to monitor them when they can choose to be away from you as much as they want. And last we talked about our project, talking about attaining bird weights and some of the directions we have going forward for managing diets and working to optimize care every day.
Absolutely, everyday things. But yeah, I think with that, we're ready to get into the Q&A. So guys, ask us the questions.
Well, first of all, thank you two so much. What a wild ride. Some really cool research going on there. And I've got to say, like, as a boy, when I attended the zoo, I never thought of people doing things like that to improve the lives of animals. So it's really exciting to see that you do that. And for our audience that's joining internationally on the Facebook page, YouTube page, if you look for good zoos and aquaria worldwide, they do similar things. Like the Toronto Zoo is a real vanguard in this regard. They're doing some really cool stuff. But check for a zoo doing things like this, making sure that the animals' welfare continues to increase, making sure that people aren't interacting with them unless it's very regimented. And all those things go a long way to ensuring that animals have a really nice future. So I love all these messages, and we're going to dive in with questions. First and foremost, you highlighted Rosie's pattern around the enclosure. So I'll bring that up again as a picture for a second. And it looks like she's going a lot to a place that's not her dish. So I've seen it some other places before where they have target training, where they've got a very specific like image, sometimes literally like a Superman or Batman symbol, that the animal you're trying to get to go to a specific food dish will then go, okay, that's my food dish, and they'll go there. Is that something you've considered? Is that something you're doing? Or do you want to make sure that they still have quite a bit of freedom of movement around of where they can eat?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a great question.
Awesome question.
And we know that Rosie is probably one of our most charismatic animals in this enclosure here. So, of course, we've started to put her diet in a space that only she can access. But of course, she's going to have choice and control to go where she chooses to go. And that's totally fine. I believe she's really easy to train and get. Sunflower seeds as a little reward, tasty treat to get her to step up on that scale for us. So I think going forward, because we have that relationship built with Rosie, building towards targeting her food dish as opposed to maybe sneaking a little snack from everybody else's food dish could be something working towards in the future, but also knowing that this is her space, this is her home, allowing her to eat where she wants to eat at the end of the day.
Sweet. Thanks, Julia. All right, Rocky wants to know, what's the bird that's been chirping in the background? So I think we're hearing Rosie right now, where it's like a little blah, but there's something that was doing a trill consistently for a while. Do you know what kind of bird that is?
Oh.
Ooh.
Does someone want to make the noise for us?
I don't know specifically which one it was, so I would try and do it. You know I would. If we hear it again, you can let us know in the chat, and we'll go from there.
Rosie likes to make her chirping sounds, but Rose and Shiraz, who are the crimson and the eastern rosellas, they also have a very beautiful chirp, and they are also more social. So I wouldn't be surprised if you're hearing them. But the star, I think she likes to make her voice heard.
Yeah, Rosie, for sure. And she has quite a variation of noises that she can make.
Yeah.
Which is makes her just even more dynamic.
And if we heard the coops, we'd tell you, or you would know. They're very loud.
Okay, thank you very, very much. Great questions from our Holy Trinity crew. They want to know, are any of the birds picky eaters like their teenagers in their class?
Oh my goodness, what a question. That is a great question. So yeah, we do have some picky eaters. And actually, a cool thing that I'm doing is going through some feed samples to get an understanding of what birds are eating and what they're choosing to leave behind. And birds tend to like to go for seeds. Now, seeds are the highest energy dense food item in their dish, which means usually that's like a donut to us. Like the most I love that. And maybe instead of their fruits and veggies, which maybe that's going to be the last thing that goes off of our plate. So a lot of the birds love to eat the seeds, and they leave the pellets or the complete feeds that sometimes have more of the vitamins and minerals that they should be eating. But all in all, they do have a little bit of everything. They do consume it, but of course they go for their favorite things first. I know that for sure.
Yeah, especially when there's competition going on in there, and they want to make sure that they get
and their buddies are sharing their food dishes sometimes. So
my dog's favorite food is cheese. I think all of us who have a pet have something that is like the absolute best of treats. Oreos for Joey. We've understood the motivations of everyone in this broadcast. Reynolds class wants to know, what bird weighs the most? Is Urkel the heaviest bird in there, or is it one of the pigeons?
No. Okay, so Urkel is kind of in the middle. Our heaviest bird is a Victoria crown pigeon. Now, they're around 2.5 kilograms. Now, they do look like they could be bigger or way heavier than that, but they've got a lot of feathers that are very kind of make them look fluffier and bigger. But yeah, 2.5 kilograms doesn't sound too big, but by far they are the biggest bird here. Can anyone guess what the smallest bird is?
Ooh.
Joey, do you know what the smallest bird is in here?
Yeah, Joey.
That's actually our Eastern Rosella Rosé.
This girl here.
Yeah, she's about 92 grams. And it's really interesting because when we take pictures with our camera, we can see the time of day that she's feeding as well. And we can see that she feeds at about 9:30 every day like clockwork in the same feeder. Which is
always really there. At the second platform over there, that's her spot.
Yeah.
I've got to say, just for people that might not have a comparison, that little amount is less than a pack of Skittles. They're so tiny. Birds tend to weigh way less than you'd expect them to. We did a program the other day with a full big hawk, and it was a pound. 1 pound, that's it. It's unbelievable how skinny they are. By the way, too, this is a niche note, but everyone should look up Victoria crown pigeon. We sort of see them at the end of the enclosure, but they're like a magical bird. And we've had a lot of ornithologists on, and they will universally say pigeons are their favorite group of birds, which I think most of us, when we think pigeons, don't think that. So check out some pigeons. Pigeons rock. Pigeons are really neat. So I'm really glad we got that chance to feature them. All right. Miss Riddle's class, they're in Nova Scotia. They want to know, how do you decide which birds can go in the mixed species habitat? How do you even choose the denizens of the enclosure?
Oh, this is an excellent question. And sometimes people aren't sure, right? We like to put birds in the same spaces that exist in the same spaces in nature, right? But we also have them in these, it's smaller than nature, it's a different management scenario, so we do need to make sure that they are compatible, right? So there is a network of zoos that talk to each other and make sure that they can learn from each other's systems. Ideally, we don't put aggressive birds in with other aggressive birds or aggressive birds in with prey birds. So it is a consistent learning experience, but we are trying to be as informed by nature as possible and by our collaborations across different zoos.
And I think it's also really important that we learn their individual behaviors before we put them in this space. So Shiraz is actually the beautiful red bird. She's one of our new birds in this space, and the wildlife care staff took a long time to get to know her to see if she'd be a good buddy in this space to the other birds, because we never want to put a bird in here if it's not going to be its best home. So there's a lot of steps both between zoos and inside the zoo with the wildlife care staff to make sure that these birds that are going in, they make sense for this space, but also are going to have a good time in this space.
Yeah. Another interesting one there is that the kookaburras we saw earlier actually move out into the crane habitat outside during the summer months, right? And when we did that for the first time, we had a lot of wildlife care staff and welfare staff watching that to make sure that we can intervene if there is a problem, just because we don't necessarily know how those birds are going to get along yet. Luckily, it was awesome, and they had a great time, and they're going to go back out next summer. But it's this trial and learning process, right? Working with the animals, it's cooperative care.
Yeah. We've talked about this with the zoo with a variety of different animals, not just birds. This is a pretty universal thing. Is just, if you're going to bring in an animal from another zoo or aquarium, you want to make sure that it's going to get along. It's not going to be in danger. It's not going to endanger others. And then everyone, including the animals and people, all come out of it happy and healthy. So I love when we get this theory. A nice follow-up to it is, how do you get the bird? So is it uniquely trading with other zoos? Is it raising them in the wild? Are any born there? What's the deal?
Definitely. I'm going to actually take this question here for us. And this is kind of not necessarily a bird specific question, but more animal in general here at the zoo. So it can come in a variety of ways. And Jesse, you kind of nailed it for a lot of them. Mostly it is kind of trading and interacting with other accredited facilities across the globe. So we're looking at what's called SSP, so species survival plans, and we're looking at breeding programs for conservation. And then between that, the SSP is also looking at who has the space. So who can actually house these animals if they were to have an offspring? Which zoo has the most space and the availability, the time, the care, and the resources for that individual to maybe grow in numbers if it is successful in a breeding program. And then we also look at different exhibits that we have and what animals we can bring in. Joey and Julia both mentioned about all the ways that we have the zoo kind of laid out, and we're putting animals together who would naturally find each other in the wild. That's because we're laid out zoo geographically. So we are in the Australasia section. So all the animals in this pavilion are from that kind of same generalized area in the world. So again, looking at where we have, what our habitats are that can support us. A long time ago, animals did come for the wild, but looking at all the welfare and progress that we have made for the animal conservation and different welfare of animals here, we know that that's not a case that we should be doing, and we should be working to repopulate the wild species and using the animals that we currently have in captivity more as a seed bank for us. And so allowing us to be able to look at their welfare, analyze these animals, look at their species, and find different ways to help conserve their counterparts in the wild. So we're looking at lots of different ways to help preserve the species that we have in captivity. And then occasionally, on the very rarest of occasion, sometime as well, an animal might be orphaned in the wild. And we are a facility here that can be trusted, and we can work as hard as we can to try and make sure that that animal has the best care or quality of life. So occasionally, we will get an animal from a rescue where they can unfortunately not go back into the wild due to injury or maybe their upbringing or something that happened in their life. And so they do have to live out their days here at the zoo, but then they're able to be a part of our team here and help in education purposes, which is really cool as well.
What a beautiful answer. And I think it's a really important answer, because I think a lot of people's conception of zoos is like what zoos were like in the 80s. And a lot has changed since then. Zoos are sort of the leading charge of conservation on planet Earth, both the Toronto Zoo, zoos around the world. Zoos gather together to talk about how they can do things like species survival plans. So I love when we get this message out there. If you're in Canada, look for CAZA accreditation, the US AZA. That in general as a term you can look for around the world, and that means that the highest standard of animal care. It has the Julia and Joeys of the world. They're helping understand animals to give them a better life. I can't encourage you to do that enough. Folks, we're at the 40-minute mark, which means time flies and you're having fun. And we're going to take just 2 more questions, even though there's more already than that in the chat. One that I've been curious about in our Facebook audience is particularly keen on: how do you stop the other birds from getting to Rosie's bowl? You said that she's the only one who can access it. How can that be?
It's a great question. So, do you all see this plexiglass here? This bowl behind this plexiglass is Rosie's bowl. So basically, the only way that a bird can get to this dish is not by flying to it, it's by climbing to it. And so no birds are actually able to, with the way that it's laid out here, fly onto it. And since Rosie, as we've seen, can climb with her little feet up and down this mesh and over and across, she's the only one that can actually climb down and access this bowl. Now, I'm saying that, but I have also noticed one tiny little guest, and that's Rose. Her friend, Rose, sometimes can also access this dish. So, of course, we try and make all these special things, but animals love doing their own things, so of course we allow for that. But yeah, most often, 99% of the time, only Rosie can climb over to this dish. She's laughing at us here. She's like,
I think so.
this is mine. But yeah, sometimes Rose comes here, but that's how we do it. But most of the other dishes are very accessible. As we can see here,
Yeah.
we've even made the other dishes accessible for Rosie. So she can actually climb over to the raised platforms with these special branches that are attached to the bowls, and that lets her have the choice and control to get to the ground dishes, the raised dishes, or her dish. So this is a way that we make everything accessible for all the animals here.
Yeah, I guess a point on that too is Rosie can fly, but she oftentimes chooses to walk.
Yeah.
And that's about creating spaces that work for her, right?
I love that the analogy here is like a Torontonian squirrel experience, trying to keep them away from the bird feeder. And like you can try your best, but the squirrel will somehow make its way there. So
Yeah.
our friend Rose is a little sneak sometimes. Guys, so many great questions. I love this. I'm going to just do a quick one about the enrichments in there. You talked about giving them sort of a happy life. We've talked about food. They have a beautiful enclosure. How do you give them things to play with? And what things do you give them to play with that help make their experience there even better?
Yeah, this is a really good point. We try and create natural enrichment in a lot of cases. So we try and create spaces that are just going to be naturally enriching. These are real trees. The birds can fly at many different levels. They can go to different areas. But when we're thinking about maybe more like artificial, less environmental enrichment, we do give them different ways of feeding, right? So you can see that hanging, maybe you can't quite see that hanging bag at the back, but we do give them some options for puzzle feeders and things like this, things where they have to use their brain to solve it, to get the food out. And in addition to that, we like to give them bowls of food, so they always have the option to eat. But some animals actually find it rewarding to have to work for their food, so we like to provide them options to do that. Otherwise, I think a lot of the enrichment also comes from being in social groupings, right? So these animals can interact with each other, they can groom each other, they can have their own relationships, which make their lives complex.
And in the case for some of our birds, they like to play with the trees, and they like to play with the bark and the leaves and do all the things that are natural to them. So not only is it like food enrichment, but it's also environment enrichment. So that's important.
Sweet. Thank you two so much. I wish we could go all day. I've encouraged our class on our Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants audience to send us extra questions which we can pass to you. But we just can't wait for the rest of the series. Again, if you want to check it out, it is on our webpage here. TorontoZoo.com has so much more about their incredible conservation efforts, Guardians of Wild and beyond. So we hope you'll take the chance to check that out. And before we say farewell, horizontally, that's weird. It's the first time that's ever happened. We can go upside down. We can turn any which way. This is very spacey, Mary Ellen. I like it.
Not sure what happened to our camera here.
No, it's never happened in
We'll
our
figure out our camera.
Is there any final message you want to leave us with before we say goodbye to our classes?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you all so much for being here from the bottom of me and Joey's hearts and everybody here at the Toronto Zoo. Thank you for joining us today. And I'll just leave you with one final little message. We all have a part to play when it comes to protecting and caring for our animals here at the Toronto Zoo. Me and Joey as research assistants, all of the people involved in the science team, the fantastic zookeepers and animal care staff, our amazing educators like Mary Ellen here, all the faces behind the scenes at the zoo that you might not see when you come here every day, and especially our community, all of you who support the zoo. Together, we all contribute to one well-being of the environment, people, and the animals that we care for as Guardians of Wild. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. And to our audience from all over the place, we really appreciate you joining. Can't wait to see you next week, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye for now.